Good morning and welcome to the devotions for Saturday the 12th of September. My grandson is going to his first football coaching session today. In fact, he should be there as I speak. He's only 2, but he has got a pretty good left foot already. Will he become a Premiership player? Probably not. But if he does, I hope he remembers to look after his grandma and granddad in their old age. There are lots of things we learn to do when we're little, outside of what we learn in school. We may learn to ride a bike without stabilizers. I remember my brother helping me to learn to ride mine. The thing is, at 61, I don't think he can even ride one yet. I learned to swim at about 7 years old, and that's the age you had to be to have lessons back then. But now we tend to throw small babies into the pool knowing that they will be able to swim. And the fact is that by the time you're 7, you've actually got to relearn that reflex. You might learn to play a musical instrument. I learnt to play the recorder, just like most children. In fact, I still have my school recorder, and yes, I can still play a recognisable tune on it, and I can still read music. I also learnt to play the clarinet when I was in secondary school, and a few years ago I decided it was a good idea to learn it again. And I did, and it was actually quite easy. I remembered the fingering and what the notes were on the scales. We learn so many things. I learnt to knit when I was 5, and although I didn't continue that on and only came back to it a few years later as a teenager, I hadn't forgotten how to do it. I could still knit. There are many things that we learn that we might not continue, but we might come back to in later life. And as Christian parents, we are called to teach our children not just the practical stuff like riding a bike and learning to swim, but we're called to teach them the ways of God, the ways of faith. In Deuteronomy, in chapter 11, it tells us, God asks us to remember his words, to teach them to your children, talking about them when you sit at home and when you walk along the road, when you lie down and when you get up. So that pretty much means all of the time. And in Proverbs chapter 22 and verse 6, it also tells us that train a child in the way he should go, and when he was old, he will not turn from it. Now my children, they don't go to church anymore, but they went to Sunday school and they've been taught the basics of faith. They know that me and their dad have a prayer time every day. We've invited them to join us, but they haven't taken us up on the offer just yet. We also have some rather interesting conversations, some quite profound conversations about God and about faith. Will they come back to church? Find a faith of their own? Well, only God knows that. As parents, we've done our bit. We have taught them what they need to know. So all we can do now is pray that God will continue to guide them and that they will realise that it is God who is doing that. And as a church family, we can do the same for the children and young people that have been through our doors over the years. Some of them will continue on the path and go to churches wherever they have moved to, possibly for university and work. Others will wander from the path. But we are the ones who need to pray for these children and young people that one day they will come back and they won't have forgotten what they were taught. So your challenge today is to think of a child or young person who's been through the doors of your church, maybe quite recently, or maybe many years ago, and you know that they are not following the ways of God. So I ask you to pray for them. Ask God to watch over them and to remind them of what they were taught years ago. And pray that they will come back and know Him for themselves. So God bless. Have a wonderful, peaceful day, and I will see you again soon.